Merry Christmas, you filthy animals. This is Corey, and this is the O The Anthem podcast.
I keep trying to come out, and they keep pushing me back in. Welcome to episode 350 of the O The Anthem podcast, coming to you once again from all over Los Angeles. But Corey is there at the O The Anthem studios, high above the 110 freeway in downtown Los Angeles, California. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for listening on your podcatcher of choice, the easiest way. Anchor.fm/O The Anthem as we stare into the void.
And once again,
Nothing
can go right.
All our best efforts tonight. So
Nothing can go right.
If you're listening to this podcast, you didn't hear it live because we weren't able to do it live because there was lots of gremlins going on tonight. But
well, listen, we could have done it live. They would just heard you 4 times every time we spoke. So
it sounds like I'm speaking through the end of a large pipe.
Or a wrapping paper tube, as is appropriate this time of year, because this Thursday, this Friday is Christmas. I keep getting confused because I'm like, do I have the day off after Christmas or the day before Christmas? So Christmas Eve makes more sense. And it's weird that my company is actually closing for a day that's not the holiday. But yeah, so Christmas is this Friday. And I thought it would be apropos of us to talk about it because this is the first holiday season that we will have live, at least live recorded shows all the way through the entirety of the holiday season. Generally, one of us, either Corey or I, is gone. I had a few years there where I was, globe-trotting during December and January, but COVID has put an end to all that. So we'll all be home. Theoretically, if Curative ever gets my results back, we'll all be together. We just won't be for this particular episode. So Merry Christmas to everyone. And Happy New Year as well. I guess we'll have another episode before the New Year. So no, I take that back. Just Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah. If you're listening to this on Tuesday, it is the last night of Hanukkah, I believe. And Happy Kwanzaa, which starts on Saturday.
There you go. I don't remember any of that, so
I
barely remember when Christmas is. It just feels like
it wasn't the same day a year.
Well, I was talking to my father earlier, and we both agreed that this does not feel like Christmas at all, simply because so much of what I associate with Christmas is family and being together and stuff like that. And obviously we can't do that now at this time. But I don't know. The whole thing just feels a little bit off. Like being in Southern California too, so not having like the winter. Like it would feel a lot bit more like Christmas if there was snow around. But it's okay. We're
Wait. Corey, we're from Maryland, not snow. If there was just a dreary, wet, cold rain for the next 5-6 days, that would make it feel like Christmas. Yeah, just the endless gray of Maryland. But it's weird because after the first year we got here, we've both traveled home for Christmas every single year. So it's almost like in the first year, I think you and Rachel went back. So for me, it's just like, all right, Christmas is still Maryland. It's still being at that place and having that weather. I remember we were out in Canton maybe 2 years ago. It was like 5 degrees.
Yeah.
And we're standing on the water. And
I think that was the first Christmas back because I seem to remember us getting acclimated to the heat. And then we went back and it was like -15 with the wind chill coming off the lake or off the Patapsco.
Yeah, I was going to say the Ann Harbor area.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, it got down to 63, 59, something like that the other night. And I had my heater cranked all the way up. I have a full down blanket and I was still cold because I've acclimated. And I can only think of Johnny Drama from Entourage when he stands up in the back of the convertible and says, "I can't move back to Jersey, man."
New York.
New York. I can't move back to New York. I like the weather here too much. Yeah, that's basically where we're at now. So, but a Merry Christmas to everybody who is wherever they are. And I hope, and I do mean this with all sincerity, that you miss out on seeing your entire family this year and that you stay at home. I think the other part of Christmas is, all right, we get to leave home. I get to take a couple of days off and relax at home and then go somewhere for a while and then get back to the old grind. And now it's like, home is the last place I want to be. I'm working here most days. The few days I do go into the office, not an exception to that, and like we can't travel. So it's like, I don't even get to relax at home because even when I'm at home on Saturday, I went to bed at like 3 a.m. and I woke up at 9 a.m. panicked because I'm like, did I have a call this morning? Because I move 7 feet to go take my first call of the day.
Yeah.
I do have to have a shirt on and not look like I just woke up. So like my panic is just like, but usually, like on a Saturday, I wouldn't think that because my alarm would have to go off 90 minutes ahead of time, and then 86 minutes ahead of time, and then 81 minutes ahead of time, and do that for 45 minutes, and then get up and get ready for work.
I will never understand people who can't set alarms on 5, 10, 15-minute increments. That's the only way I roll. I can't do like a 91-minute heads up alarm.
So here's the deal with that, and just a little bit of insight. My snooze is set for 6 minutes, and I have all my alarms set so that if I get to 1 hour, meaning our alarms have been going off for 1 hour, I will have one going off every single minute, because the snoozes will just roll over, so that eventually it's just like you cannot get back to sleep. It's 20 seconds of like, where am I? And then 25 seconds of finding the phone and hitting snooze. And then by the time I've resettled back into the warm blankets from that 60-degree weather outside, another alarm's going off. So that's my method for the madness. It's every snooze every 6 minutes, and I set my alarm for every 7, I think. And that's where at 1 hour, it just rolls a new alarm every minute. So
yeah.
There's a logic. There's a method behind the madness, Corey.
All right. Well, as long as there's a method. It's the same. I used to have problems with my dad. He used to set the clocks everywhere like 11 minutes early.
Yeah, I do.
So that he wouldn't be late. And then I'll look at clocks and I'll just be like, holy shit, it's 7 o'clock. He's like, oh, it's actually 6:49. Like, why do you do this?
Well, because you look at it and you say, it's 11 minutes fast, so you're always going to still be late. But I, in the panic of like, oh my God, what time is it? I have to go. I forget that I set it fast. And then I'm still on time.
See, I never forget.
But I'm still late.
That's my problem. I'd always be like, oh, I got an extra 11 minutes. Fine.
Yeah, I'm still late because I would just look at the clock and I'm just like, nah, fuck it, because COVID. What am I going to say? What are they going to say to me? What are you going to do to me?
Sorry, I couldn't make it in on time. There was a lot of traffic.
I mean, I just have it worked in my head. I have a couple things like, oh, a guy coughed near me, so I went home and took another shower. I feel like that's a good cover, right? Or you can always pull the excuse I think Batman's already coming up with. I got halfway here and realized forgot my mask, so I had to go back and get it. But I did want to take one aside to say we're not taking any vacation. Well, we're not going home for Christmas. We may have a little vacation time in January. Hopefully, we'll take a little trip, but we'll have a weekly recorded podcast, obviously, for that. And we think we'll be back on Monday, so we should be on time.
Yeah.
And for those of you who may be thinking this, no, we're not all going to sit in a room full of pods and travel virtually to, I don't know, Cozumel or Hawaii, because apparently that is a thing where you can pay good hard-earned American dollars to watch a VR video that was filmed in a beautiful place because you can't travel there right now, which escapes me.
It's also prohibitively expensive. That was my problem with that whole idea.
And not prohibitively expensive as in like more expensive than going to the place, but more than it should be for a very long VR video.
Oh, for sure. That's absolutely for sure.
Yeah. But here's to this time next year when I can once again plan a 19-day vacation over the holidays, 4 of which will be spent with my family, at which I'll reach my wit's end and then head off to somewhere tropical. So hopefully my family doesn't listen to the podcast. Anyway, but of course we are all stuck at home. And Corey we were talking in the pre-show meeting. We are going to be coming up on a year now before since the serious day-to-day work was really or day-to-day job availability was available for you. Like the industry was slow anyway through the winter, and right when it started to kick back in is when COVID hit in March. So I think you're going to be happy about the stimulus news that has come up after clearly the Senate listens to the podcast. We called them out.
If they did, they wouldn't do what they do. That's for sure. So yeah, I mean, here's generally my thought. Like, you know, I'm trying to be cool here. I'm trying to be nice about it.
I'm not a regular mom. I'm a cool mom.
I mean, like, basically my thing is that I feel like I've just sort of been in jail for the last year here because it's not even that I'm not able to work, and I acknowledge the fact that I have blessings in my life that a lot of other people don't. And that there are a lot of people who are in like really bad financial shape right now. They own businesses. They have no idea how they're going to survive. You know, like I'm not at the dire part of a lot of people's lives right now. and I can acknowledge that. But at the same time, this hasn't been easy for anybody, and especially people who are freelance, who don't work, who are in like industries that are ravaged by the lack of any kind of work because of what's going on with coronavirus. I mean,
count your blessings that you're not a politician, Corey, and you don't have to go do some French guy's laundry. All right. When I heard Gavin Newsom was off doing some French guy's laundry, I just said,
and he paid $350 to do it. Can you believe?
Oh yeah, we're gonna get to that in a second. But as far as the stimulus goes, we did call out last week not getting anything done basically the entire time they've been in session, except for paying themselves and paying the military, which obviously, the only thing worse than being stuck at home in Los Angeles, which isn't really that terrible to begin with. So long as you're getting by, it could be worse. We could live in, Plainview, Texas, or somewhere in the middle of nowhere and be like, hey, so we can go everywhere because there's 12 people in the town and we're basically just one big family. So, but the only place that got less done was Congress, but they came together this week and they said, holy shit, we're all going to be to blame for this if we don't get something done. And much like the military spending, they found a way to do a stimulus.
Well, I think that really this let's get the basics out of the way first.
Sure.
Most people know this $600 one-time payment as opposed to the $1,200 that we got the first time that there was a government stimulus there.
And keep in mind, that'll be an extra 4 weeks late because Trump is going to want to make sure to personally sign this time every single check.
According to Mnuchin, it's going to be available next week. It's going to be deposited in everyone's account next week. So we'll see. I'm still waiting.
Make less than $75,000.
I'm still waiting for my tax or my refund from the government for the overpayment of taxes I made. But that's fine. That's what is that? Just $900 just sitting out there in the void, tax free. Interest free to the government.
I was gonna say, by the way, you don't get interest when they take that long to get your money back. Very weird.
No, I don't. So I like how they said, "Oh, we'll send it to you too," and I was just like, "Yeah, I'm sure you will."
Yeah.
So $600, an extra $300, and people who are getting unemployment, and this basically
which was taken away like what 4 or 5 months ago now, September,
end of July. There was a couple places that had an extra amount that was given through federal disaster relief through Trump, but
not California.
No, California was one of them, but it was a very limited thing. So it was like 6 weeks of like an extra $200 or something like that. So it was something, but it certainly wasn't anything that like helped out a ton of people. And $300 a week extra on whatever you're getting in unemployment can be great if what you were making in unemployment is relative to what the job was you just lost.
Yeah.
But, if you're a freelancer like me, I'm making $100-something in unemployment every week. And that's just because I don't have W-2s that the government can go look at to see how much money I make.
Yeah. And a bunch of rich guys said, how much does it take to survive? Like $200 a week or so? Yeah, that sounds fine. Just give them that. That's fine.
They'll figure out a way.
How much is milk? It's like 89 cents a gallon, right? Something like that. Bread?
It's a nickel at the corner store, if I remember. Last time I had to go buy milk.
I got comments about Joe. I got comments about Joe Biden and all of those old guys, but we'll get to that. Yeah, go ahead.
What really bothers me about this whole thing is that neither one of the two sides seem to understand the plight of what people were going through at all. So there was the Republican side where they had opportunities to vote on the HEROES Act, which they didn't do. They just sat on that one. There's been constant stimulus talks going on for months since it expired in July, I think it was, and nothing was breaking through. It was just a dogfight on both sides. It seems like now the Republicans are more inclined to do something because it might jeopardize the Senate runoffs in Georgia. And, apparently throwing people a little bit of money right before the vote might help them feel more palatable about voting for the two Republicans who literally own the stock market. And then there's the Democrats and Nancy Pelosi specifically, who seems to be the chief negotiator for the Democrats. I don't know why we decided that she has to be the one, but there was a $1.8 billion deal that Mnuchin had proposed a couple months ago that
But Trump
Pelosi
said he would
turned down.
veto. But Trump said he would veto it either way, so it didn't matter.
Yeah, but I mean, like, even so, that could have been a framework for something that got worked out, and it just sort of got pushed aside. The Democrats were fighting for specific things like liability, making sure there wasn't any liability protection against employee or companies who make their employees or their customers more likely to get sick because of their actions, which I think is an important thing because obviously there's a difference between I was the only person who got sick at my job. You know, they did everything they could to protect everyone, but somebody, you know, some people will get sick.
I got a habit of licking park benches sometimes on my own time.
Right. And, you know, as opposed to like what, you know, a lot of people have been saying Amazon has been doing, which is literally shoving people like sardines into the cans that are the warehouses that they work and stuff like that. So there's different variations of how important liability protection was, especially if you were a worker who was not being treated correctly. And for businesses too. I've been doing most of my holiday shopping online. There was a couple select items that I needed to actually like go to a store to get. So I made a plan yesterday to go, right? I went to Burbank and there's a Target there. And there's a whole bunch of stores there. I figured I'd just stop there. I'd go to the 4 stores I needed, I'd get out, and I'd be done. Nope. Every single one of these stores has a line around the building because they're doing 20% capacity, which is fine. I'm totally cool with that. I didn't necessarily want to wait in a like 4-hour line to get into Best Buy. So I figured I'd do that elsewhere. There was no line at Target. And I said, okay, I need to go into Target, so I'll just go there first because there's no line. I go in there. They are 100% absolutely not enforcing any kind of capacity limits in that store. I don't know if it's the general manager. I don't know if it's like, you know, the employees just saying like, I don't give a fuck. I'm not going to do anything about it. But there was a normal amount of people Christmas shopping in a Target that I walked into. And like I kind of walked in and just, you probably saw my eyes like widen as like, it was like, oh my God, all these people.
Yeah. I have a sense, having been to 2 different Targets in the last couple of weeks, that they are letting the store manager, the local store manager, decide how long a line will people stand for. And like the one in at Sunset and Western had a little bit of a line, but it's also kind of like Hollywood hippies and like East Hollywood, like, oh no, we're down with it. We get it. It's very important, the work that we're doing standing outside of a Target because we're keeping people safe. And that's fine. I have a sense that Burbank is not that crowd. Burbank is very much the what you might think of as an LA person, not the hippy dippy LA person, but the like, where's my coffee, get my latte, where are we going to lunch, Soho House for dinner,
the conservative on the inside, Democrat on the outside.
Yeah, a dino, if you will. Yes. And so the manager there may have just said, if somebody comes up and there is one person waiting to go in, they turn around and go back to their car. So we can't do it.
Yeah.
We're just going to have to let people in, and we'll run the risk. We'll see what happens. I mean, Mnuchin's the friends with the Target CEO anyway, so I'm sure they'll take care of us with liability protection. Luckily, they didn't, at least. And the problem is, though, it could happen anytime.
Yeah.
5 years from now, they could get liability protection from forever, from the entire thing. And then everyone finds out, well, it turns out that at 5 years and 4 days after getting infected, you have really serious health consequences. And Target,
that's when your heart starts beating out of control and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. And Target's just like, oh, we got this liability protection they passed yesterday, and it covers us for the entirety of the crisis. So that's good.
I feel like the Democrats were trying to die on certain hills. Like they wanted to bail out the states and they wanted to get rid of the liability shield, and they were fighting at the expense of the American citizens the whole time, so that 5 months later, 4 months later, we can then get $300 every week on unemployment or $600 one-time payment. It just feels like they were, you know, like there were different ways to approach this. I see a lot of negotiations that happen out in the public, especially amongst like, you know, like you'll see it with unions and industry and stuff like that, where you'll see them negotiating for a week and then they'll take a break and then they'll come back to negotiate for another week. And then the talks break down and they separate for 3 weeks and then they get back together and stuff like that. Some of those negotiations I just have no comprehension of because I'm so much of a, hey, let's just work through the issues one at a time until we get to it. And they are trying to manage there's too many mistresses to manage here to be able to properly focus on the one things that are, because if you could hammer out the most important parts of the deal first and then just let everything else flow off of that negotiation, come to the table with the 5 most important things you have and the 5 things you can't stand for. We'll discuss these 10 items in aggregate on both sides. We'll come to a generalized understanding, a compromise of some sort of way, and then we'll work on everything else that comes along with it. I mean,
see, this reference is going to be lost in you, Corey, but that's assuming that Emperor Palpatine is not one of the parties who's doing the negotiating. Do you know who Emperor Palpatine is?
From the Star Wars?
Yeah, he's the evil guy in Star Wars. And I'm making a reference, of course, there to the great senator from Kentucky.
Yes.
Who would burn down his own house to prove a point, I feel like he'd be like, see, everybody's house burns. Yes, my children are inside as well. Yeah, this happens. But just to prove the point.
Yeah, I just feel like the amount of the way the politicians have clearly lost touch with the people who are really struggling, and that's all of these senators and congressmen from the very beginning of the pandemic have collected all their paychecks.
Oh yeah,
they've made $140,000 on average since the beginning of the pandemic. Billionaires across this country are making record money like they've never seen before. People who are in online business, people who have prior to the pandemic pivoted to an online based business are seeing things explode, and people who were in, restaurants have traditionally been seen as sort of recession proof businesses. Yeah. Because people need to eat. You might not go out and eat as much if you don't have as much money. Like you might not do the fancy dinner, but McDonald's doesn't necessarily lose a lot of money when the economy goes down. I'm
ordering a McRib tonight for dinner.
they seem
McRib's back, baby.
They do well all throughout. They don't need to worry about it. None of them realize what it's like to be in a situation of true dread, and that's really what it is for so many people. There are people who are down to their last couple dollars trying to figure out how they're going to make it work, and they just can't. They go to sleep worrying about what tomorrow brings. There's people who own businesses who think about their employees and stuff like that. I mean, Rob will talk a lot about evil capitalism and stuff like that, but somewhere there's a guy who owns an honest sandwich shop who has 5 employees, and he's really worried about his 5 employees, Yeah. He's really worried about his... The
department kept shutting that place down. We went to it every Friday, and they kept shutting it down.
It's a big bad government getting involved.
Just let me have my sandwich that I know is rated a D by the health department, okay? I see the D. He tried to hide it in hot dog, but I see it. It's fine. I miss that place, that Greasy Spoon place.
I just
what
really
what
wish...
do we get, though? So we kind of skipped over, but there is payroll protection also in this bill.
Yeah.
There is rent rent protections with no evictions. It's extended for another 6 months. So...
There is $15 billion in Save Our Stages, which is important to entertainment industry people. That's good.
It's $900 billion total. It's the largest government stimulus ever.
Second largest.
And it's the largest. $900 billion is the largest direct stimulus.
Oh, okay.
There are some that have gone higher than that, but not. Well, I guess this is not even directly to the people. It's not all directly to the people either. But you know what I mean? Ideally, Save Our Stages doesn't go to make Ticketmaster more rich. It goes to keep a small venue.
I mean, technically, the $2 trillion spent earlier was the largest. This would be the second largest. In combination, these two would be...
is the largest. Yeah. Sorry. So anything outside of COVID it remains part of the largest. So, I mean, in the end... they got a lot, and it's about a quarter of what was probably necessary.
I mean, Joe Biden at one point had said that in reference to the bipartisan Senate negotiations that had been going on almost immediately after the election took place, saying that this isn't perfect, but this is the down payment on what will eventually become the total recovery bill.
Yes.
And you sort of have to wait for me to get in office before I can really do anything. And it's fine to see it that way. But I mean, there's a version, I think, of this down payment that could have been made months ago and helped keep a lot of people out of dire straits, and realize that giving more money back to the people who paid the money in the first place is not out of the realm of possibility. And there's a lot of pork in this thing, and I know a lot of people are getting caught up in like, you know, how much the Smithsonian gets and stuff like that. Like, I get it. This is how these things sort of work. But, you know, there is certainly room outside of the pork that is going on in this bill to give more to the American people who are really struggling at this moment. And
if we're going to talk about the excesses of Congress, I think that the most important thing isn't the pork that's in a bill, because that will always go to, listen, you fight to get the new aircraft manufacturer in your district. In the end, that employs people in your district. But that's pork, because it didn't go to the lowest bidder. It went to your district and your place. You build a bridge to nowhere in Alaska. It's employing Alaskans to build a bridge that is $40 billion. It doesn't go anywhere that anybody wants to go. But when you use your wealth and your privilege to jump the line for a vaccine that's newly available for a virus that you have been saying doesn't exist or isn't the big problem that people say it is for the last, 9 months, that I think is the real pork that we need to worry about.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's sickening that Marco Rubio is getting a shot before like any number of people. There are healthcare workers. Yeah, there's healthcare workers out there who are waiting on their shots, but Marco Rubio moves right to the straight front of the line. And we were talking about this pre-show as well. There's no way. There's no way you can convince me that Bezos doesn't have this shot already, that Kim Kardashian, 100%. That anyone who has any sort of money or any kind of availability or influence hasn't found a way to get an early version of this shot as soon as humanly possible.
And not even that.
And, you know, it wouldn't benefit, you know, say it was Bezos. It wouldn't benefit for him to put on Instagram like, hey, here's me getting the vaccine, because people would be like, what the fuck? Like, all the people who are getting sick and dying in your distribution centers, and you're getting the goddamn shot, like, it would not play well. So he's got to just get it and act like he didn't get it and play it off and everything like that. But there's no way. The rich always find a way to move right to the front of the line. And the fact that Congress is putting themselves in the same level as the healthcare workers who are literally keeping us alive throughout this whole thing. And also, you know, again, I complain about not working. And it's because I want to be working. I want to be doing things. I don't want to be stuck in the house. I get it.
You're a good Republican drone. Yes, we know. Go ahead.
But the number of people who are like, I just can't even properly understand how you could get that shot and not think about the people who have been working the busiest days of their lives every single day for the last 9 months. Like, I think about, like, every once in a while I get flashbacks to when I was working at Nelson's, and it was the lunch rush on a Saturday or a Friday, and it was 4 straight hours or 3 straight hours of just constant, like, all hands on deck. Like, you're moving as fast as you possibly can. When that 4 hours is done, you sit down for a second, you take a deep breath, and you're just like, I got through it. I can't believe I did it, but I got through it. Healthcare workers have been living lunch rush every single hour of every single day for the last 9 months straight. And there's always a nurse on staff. It's not like they get the middle of the night off. There's people who are there 24 hours a day working to keep us alive. And, you know, personally speaking, I just think that fuck the members of Congress. It should be all the health workers who have been doing everything they can to keep us alive through this whole thing.
We might be a little better off if some of them, you know, get COVID and die off because they're old and they've passed their prime. And that's me saying that. That's not Corey saying that.
Yeah,
legal liability applies. I'm not insinuating that Corey believes that at all. But just the audacity. I read a study this week that said that it looks like this generation of nurses, which you say this generation, but what that means is everyone serving as a nurse right now, essentially is having the same pre-PTSD issues as battlefield medics.
And not just nurses, doctors and people who work at the hospital. Like, we think a lot about healthcare, you know, the heroes of the healthcare movement and stuff like that. We think nurses, we think doctors, we think administrators and stuff like that. There are people who are janitors at the hospital
Mhm.
who are exposed to the virus more than almost anybody else because they have to go in and clean up after every single person leaves the hospital. And they're just as
One way or the
frontline,
other.
as important as anyone else in that building. Like, without proper sanitation staff, this whole thing just fucking erupts into even a bigger deal. So,
Yeah.
you know,
And I said nurses, I meant hospital staff, but a hospital staff is essentially undergoing the same stressors as a MASH unit, as you know, to go from the show that people might recognize, but like a battlefield medical unit where mortars are going off 15 feet from your tent and you have to worry about keeping this person alive. They've been doing this for 9 months under with the same mental conditions. And basically, what the study came to the result is that if we can't get it under control in the next 3 to 5 months, that we may lose everyone who's in the industry now. That like once the emergency's over and that personal pressure they put on themselves to like, I need to perform, I need to keep doing this, we got to keep going, we're doing good for people. Once that's gone, like half of the people may just be like, I'm going back to school. Or I'm going to go start a business because I can't do this anymore. I can't have this happen again. And it inevitably will happen again. So,
well, while we're in the middle of our COVID talk here, there is a lot of things we need to sort of get into with what's happening right now with this whole situation. So,
everything's under control. Everyone's listening to the doctors. They're staying inside. They're not traveling.
So as we stand right now, 1 in 64 Angelinos are infected with coronavirus, whether or not they know it or not.
Well, hey, wait.
We've had
a couple weeks ago that was 1 in 150. So it sounds like it's better, right? 1
no,
in
that's
64, is that
a smaller number is worse because that means the less people you come in contact with, the more highly likely the chance you get the viruses. But yeah, we've as the new epicenter of the virus, we've had 100,000 cases in the last 7 days. That was as of yesterday. We added another 11,000 cases today. So that's not any better. That's not like that dropped all of a sudden. It's not like a miracle.
Wait, are people getting their results back? Because I haven't gotten mine back. Should I be worried about that?
I think a lot of people are getting tested right now because they want to go home for Christmas and they think that's the way to do it. And that's unfortunate because you decided the worst possible time to get tested because a lot of people got flights at LAX this weekend. So
yep.
I'd like to check back, as I do every so often, on South Korea, because they are one of the nations who has been able to get on top of outbreaks more than almost any other country. I mean, we have there's a lot of successes. Japan has been doing well. New Zealand has been doing well. There's a lot of other countries that have done a lot of heroic work without the resources too. There's a lot of countries in Africa which have really gotten on top of this despite not having the kind of infrastructure necessary to get on top of it, handle it a lot better than America.
Almost like socialized medicine has worked out really well in places where they had socialized medicine.
I mean, if you're talking about South Korea and specifically, a big part of their success was the fact that they were so on top of the contact tracing that they were way ahead of any kind of outbreak because they were just telling people, go home. You were exposed. You went to that big church with thousands of people and there were people sick there. So you have to stay home. And if you don't, then we'll arrest you. But, you know, they have more control over that sort of thing.
Yeah.
You know, right now, Garcetti says don't go out after 10 p.m. and people are just like, fuck you. Like,
there are people who stay home all day just to go out at 10:01. You're like, no, fuck Garcetti. Nah, I'm not staying home. Where are you going? No, round the block. Fuck them. I'm not even going anywhere.
Nightclub's open.
Well, that's true too. You can go do a French guy's laundry apparently. So
did you see the thing I sent about the nightclub, the illegal nightclub operating in DTLA?
Yep.
I watched a video of people being escorted out by the police, and there were hundreds of masked people just leaving this nightclub.
I'm wearing a mask.
But yeah, I mean, like, basically, so much of the problem here in California, I think, in Los Angeles specifically, is that, you know, there's been so much hypocrisy from everybody, especially Gavin Newsom and his French laundry, that people are really just like, fuck it. You know, if the rules don't apply to you, then they don't apply to me. And yeah. I don't understand why I'm living this, you know, like monk-like life to appease Gavin Newsom, who goes out and has maskless dinners with lobbyists at expensive restaurants that nobody. Could you afford a $350 plate meal right now?
I mean, I could, but you guys are poor. I'm rich.
No, but
so-
I'm saying like tonight we're going out to dinner. It's going to cost $350. Are you excited about that? Is that going to roll off you? Is
I'm never excited about spending money. That's why I have $350 to spend on a dinner.
Still, I think many people are not thinking so much about spending half of their stimulus payout on one dinner.
I mean, how many people $350 was their food budget for the last month?
Yeah,
and it was spent on a single dinner.
Yeah,
so
by a single person.
Yeah,
and Garcetti too. He's just been like, I feel bad because he's trying. At the very least, he's trying to be straight with people. He's saying, "Don't go anywhere. Stay in. Don't this is the worst time." Like he's telling you the facts, which is fine. It's what I want to hear. At the same time, he does it in such a way that's like, you ever have see a parents of like an asshole kid, and then you're just like, discipline him. Like he just,
I've made your points for you.
He knocked over the mannequin in the middle of the store. You got to discipline him. It's just like, well, discipline doesn't work with young Corey. Like, he doesn't take it well. Like, no, fuck this. Like, and the fact that the police have just decided that they're not going to enforce anything.
Yeah.
Because, number one, I mean, as a police officer, I can understand how they're just like, they want us to, like, pull over everybody at 10 o'clock and start asking them why they're going. Like, fuck that. I'm not doing that. Like,
do you see the traffic out here? How many stops am I going to do?
I'm not going to fucking stop everybody. But at the same time, like, there's also, like, you remember when Baltimore cops, like, took a knee after Freddie Gray?
Yeah.
It's just like, we'll see how much they miss police when we don't do anything. Like, this seems a lot like the same sort of situation where police are just like, no, we're not doing fucking, we're not doing any of this stuff. You're trying to cut our budget, trying to cut our people. No, we're not going to do extra work.
Here's the deal, LAPD. You see a guy walking down the street with an open container, I'm fine with you ignoring that because it's the end of the world. Who the fuck cares? But you see a house that has, I don't know, 1,000 cars parked in it in a neighborhood with, 10 houses, maybe go and investigate. Maybe make some arrests. Public health versus like victimless crime. Because by the way, you will 100% get a ticket for walking with an open container right now. If I was to walk down Hollywood Boulevard with a beer, I would 100%. If I didn't get arrested, I would get a ticket. But I'm half a mile away. They had a party house that everybody knew was a party house, and they just refused to bust it until the city turned the water off.
Yeah. I don't even know what to do. Like. People in LA right now have just lost the desire to care about it. I think that's basically it. I think people who have managed to get through and survive this far, and it hasn't impacted their life in any kind of serious way, are like, why am I living? Why am I going home and living like a monk? Like, what benefit does it serve me? People who are committed, people who don't have anything better to do but sit home, like, we're going to do it. But I see it a lot elsewhere too. I feel like people who are working, people who haven't had their life interfered with at all by COVID, other than, you have to wear a mask or you have to take certain precautions when you're at work or blah, blah, blah. A lot of these people just seem to think that, it doesn't even matter. Like, I have to go to work. Why can't I go to a restaurant? Like, what's the difference?
Well, and keep in mind, Corey, the president promised us a vaccine by the end of the year. Now we have 2 vaccines. Moderna was approved by the FDA. We'll start getting shots administered this week. The vice president got his, former vice president, president-elect, got his shot and showed us that he, in fact, is an old man, and that for some reason a suit makes an old man look like a semi-professional.
Suits have transformative properties because take a look at Marco Rubio getting his shot too. It looks like he should get a lollipop at the end of that one. He's like a very good little boy in his vaccine picture.
See, I went with the Uncle Rico. He looks like a 40-year-old man who thinks that he's 12. Now, arguably, Marco Rubio is in pretty good shape, but I don't think he could throw a football over the mountains there. So,
I used to be able to throw a football over that damn mountain.
But, so we got a new vaccine, and just in time. By the way, there's 2 more coming. Johnson & Johnson is going to be pushed for FDA approval probably the start of the year. And then there's one more.
The
AstraZeneca, which will likely be at the beginning of the year too. So we might have 4, which means that you and I won't have to wait to Q4 of 2021 to get one. We'll be able to get one in Q2, a whole 6 months early. So yay. That is if the new variant that we talked about last week, the new variant of COVID is covered by the vaccine. I saw two news stories this week, neither of which gave me much confidence in the fact that that might be true. One of which I was describing to Corey. Basically, the scientist looks at the interviewer like through the camera, just looking into the camera, and like takes a long, pregnant pause at the beginning, and then says, "Why would you even ask me that? No, of course it's going to cover this." It's like I don't have a lot of confidence in that response, where you're like surprised that someone would ask if it would cover it, and then
we've also talked about this. Like, listen, I'm not anti-vaccine. As soon as I get the option to take this thing, I'm taking it. I want to move on with my life. Like, there doesn't seem to be like serious scientists worked on this, and I have to trust them. There just has to be some trust that goes involved in somebody who's made a life out of making vaccines to do it safely, right?
Yeah.
And all the double checking that goes into making sure that people are well covered for any kind of eventuality. You just got to trust people. What I don't like is that there has been sort of this blanket don't doubt vaccines ever for any reason whatsoever that has been out everywhere. Like, if you watch CNN for 20 minutes, then they will bring up the vaccine 4 or 5 times, and every single time they do it, they'll do like the, perfectly safe and absolutely ready for you to take, which is like, feels very much like propaganda. Like, the government has told us that the vaccine is good, so we must now talk about how good the vaccine is. Like,
we're at war with East Asia. We've always been at war with East Asia. But I think also you and I are not necessarily the average Americans, where like, not my parents specifically, because Trumpers, but there are people in the middle who would be like, well, I've just been hearing a lot, and everything I hear says that it's safe, and maybe I'll take it then, because CNN repeats it 6 times an hour.
Yeah,
it's safe and you can take it. And I hear that once, and I'm like, great, you got me. When can I get one? And now I'm like hearing Q4 of 2021, and I'm like, well, okay. But there are people who literally would have been like, no, absolutely not, even though they're kind of politically centered, but they hear it enough, and they're like, no, I've been hearing things. I hear it's safe. It's literally Brooke Baldwin saying it 6 times in the hour that she's on CNN, but doesn't matter. I've heard it a bunch of times from places, so it's fine.
Many people have told me it's just been Brooke Baldwin 6 times.
It's just Brooke Baldwin, but it's for the dumb people. That's what I'm saying. It's for the dumb people who would otherwise say. And here, I don't joke. I'm talking about a variant that may or may not be covered by it, but 99% of people who have died from it or have even been infected have the original strain of COVID. There is a small section of this variant out there. So if you told me the vaccine doesn't work against the variant, I'd still get the vaccine, because most people have, original Coke, not Coke Crystal or Crystal Pepsi. Most of them have Pepsi, not Crystal Pepsi. And it looks a little different. I'm not sure if it's going to be covered, but it doesn't matter, because the likelihood I get splashed with Pepsi is way higher than Crystal Pepsi, especially in 2020. You see where I'm going with this?
But that's assuming that the UK specifically can actually get their shit together and lock this down. I mean, the problem was, you're hearing about this new variant is fast spreading. It's way more aggressive than the strain that we've been dealing with, or the couple strains that we've been dealing with so far. And it's gotten Europe to the point where they're just like, nope, nobody from England is allowed into.
Hey, everyone in the U.S. and Europe has seen 28 Days Later. We know how the fast-moving variants go when they come. Okay. So we shut the channel down and we say, no, this far, but no further.
Hopefully England can get on top of this, because it is the number of people I saw getting on airplanes leaving England before everything got shut down made me very nervous. Like that.
Here's the thing, though. If you were there and they were like, you're about to get locked into England, wouldn't you go jump on a plane? I'm just saying.
I mean, I probably would try, especially if I wasn't like from England.
From
like,
England, yeah. Because if you were not there.
If you're talking about me, like if I could. Somebody emailed me, said, hey, you want to come to England for a movie shoot? We'll pay you $200 a day. And I'm like, hey, that's more than I'm making now. Get on the plane. And then all of a sudden I hear about this new variant. I'm like, yeah, fuck, get me home. Like, I don't want to be stuck in England for a year. Like,
and then we meet the new patient 0. And eventually, when the time machine gets invented, they'll trace it back. And they'll be like, there was this guy, and he's not mentioned a lot, but he went from England to LA. And as he passed through JFK, and then LAX. He became patient zero and spread it all across
Corey,
the world.
you were doing so well, and then you just threw it all away.
You were going to be lost to history, and now look how famous you are. Patient zero. The 10,000 humans that are left will all know your name.
At least I'm not that woman who fell for Martin Shkreli. We got that. At least I got that going for me. That poor girl. Did you see that story, by the way? Did that one crack your anti-social media bubble?
No, I was gonna say I see headlines sometimes because despite me turning off notifications, by the way, on everything, I still get some notifications that punch through. Like it'll say, Corey sent this to Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Are you sure you don't want to see this? And I'm like, no, I don't want to see it. But I see the headlines. Yeah.
So just real fast, I think this story is fine and funny, and then we'll move on to the upcoming Civil War. A newspaper reporter who was covering Martin Shkreli, Pharma Bro, the guy who bought a particular insulin and then raised the price like $900 per vial. She started covering him for her magazine, and then fell in love with Martin Shkreli as he went to prison, and like started doing things like as soon as he got locked away, she was like emailing his friends, going like, "Is anyone watching his cat?" and like doing all those desperate "I'm in love with somebody" things. And then the story got out, and somebody else wrote a story about how this woman quit her job, divorced her husband, and has been having a like long distance relationship with Martin Shkreli from prison. And then as soon as the story started getting out, Martin Shkreli ghosts her. He's just like, I don't want to have any part of this. I don't want to have any part of this crazy girl. And it's hysterical to me because Martin Shkreli is still in a position where he's just like, no, not me. I'm not dealing with this.
That makes me think of an image I remember from like 2003. And I don't even remember his name. Christina Aguilera's first husband, when they were both like, and when it was 21-year-old primo Christina Aguilera are sitting at a fashion show, and you're there with Christina. He was a nobody. He was a backup dancer and average looking guy, but something got to her and they got married. He's sitting there with her, and you see him like check it out of the corner of his eye as a girl bends over on the other side of him.
Yeah.
And the caption that I always see to that is, no matter how great she is, there's somebody tired of fucking her. And that Martin Shkreli story makes me think of that, where it's just like, it doesn't matter.
But like the opposite end of the spectrum.
No matter how crazy and ridiculous a person is, listen, I've gotten laid my whole life, and I'm clearly crazy, average looking. Like Martin Shkreli and I are about $5 billion away from being the same person. And I mean, I wouldn't also raise the price of a drug, but
you don't got that Wu-Tang album though.
I don't got the Wu-Tang album that I'm going to never listen to, and not let anyone else listen to either. Just have it just because. But so there's always somebody who you can find. And by the way, there is always that guy or that girl, depending on what the situation is probably the asshole that everyone else says they are.
Yeah.
By the way, I am the asshole that everybody says I am.
Well, speaking of the assholes everyone says they are, the Trump administration is aiming to irreparably get rid of democracy. So yeah, that to possibly look forward to.
If I said you have to bet your life on this, tell me one thing you think has never been discussed in the White House, specifically the Oval Office, ever before 2016.
Oh, well, I mean, certainly martial law to overturn the election results is probably way up there. Like,
I think that would have been the safest bet possible, that no president sat in the Oval Office behind any desk, let alone an infamous desk that you share with many past presidents, and said, could we stop the transition of power if I declare martial law? And do you think the military would follow me? I would guarantee you that has never been said, except for maybe an Aaron Sorkin script, until 2020, when it was said in the Oval Office.
It's just, it's one of those things that's so, like, we set it up as like the most shocking thing you could ever hear in the White House. Less shocking than that, I imagine, is a visitor like coming. If I came to visit the White House, like Trump was just like, I need Corey to come visit me. And then like I got there and I was just like, hey, before we get started, where do I do where do I do my coke and get my hookers sent in? Like, what room is available for that? Like, that would feel like a less inappropriate conversation than the.
Yeah, I mean, Kennedy had that office, so clearly coke and hookers.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like, that's Kennedy. He's the president already. He's not just some guy coming off the street, you know, like.
Well,
just be like if I came to your house, you didn't know me. I was just I was a new hire, and you decided you were gonna have a drinking night with me, right? And then like the second I walked in the door, I'm just like, hey, by the way, I brought some hookers are coming over later. Where should I bring them? You'd just be like, maybe a little presumptuous, maybe a little quick on the.
You and I have lived very different lives, Corey. I don't know. That has legitimately happened to me in my life, as well as the stranger walking in and being like,
"Where's the coke room?
Is there a certain place I do blow, or is it just like anywhere it's cool?" And I'm like, "Hello, I'm Rob. Nice to meet you. Welcome to my home."
So
I had to steal a Blu-ray from my roommate.
So Trump, Giuliani, Sidney Powell, and Michael Flynn.
Yeah.
Are all gathered together in the Oval Office.
No, this is not the start of a joke, folks. This is an actual meeting that happened. A convicted felon who was given a pardon.
His lawyer, right? The president and his lawyer.
Yes. All sitting around the Oval Office talking about a little bit of insurrection. You know.
There's two sides I feel about this. Number one, I feel like the more we talk about it, the more serious Trump thinks it's an option, which makes me not want to talk about it. But at the same time, I think that there's an important bit that needs to get out to the people that this is not appropriate to even be discussed. Like, this is if you want to say the election is rigged, and a lot of senators have been sort of going along the line of, well, I'm going to let him exhaust all his legal options. Like, that's the non-answer version of saying he lost, but he's allowed to do this, so I'm going to let him.
Listen, Corey, if the people vote for a monorail, then a monorail they shall have. But I'm not going to say yes or no to the monorail myself.
The people must vote on the monorail. And the legal challenges that come from the people's decision.
They have to just let it go through the courts. And then if the courts decide monorail, then we'll have a monorail, all right?
Monorail! It's unbelievable because all I can think about is the people. I remember I had a conversation with a Republican before Trump won, right?
Yeah.
It was Obama was still in office, and they said, just you watch. If Trump wins, then Obama's going to find some sort of way to say that there was a fraudulent election, and he'll call in the military, and he'll do this thing, and
take our guns.
You'll see he's gonna create a shadow government and blah blah blah, and he'll never leave that office. And then Trump won, and none of that happened. In fact,
Obama got a Netflix deal.
It was a very peaceful transition, and Obama did literally everything he could to make to give as soft a landing for Trump as possible, up into including giving him the advice to stay away from Michael Flynn because he's trouble. And now, 4 short years later, we're just saying to ourselves, well, maybe if he declares martial law, the military won't observe it. Like, there's no, like, we're at kind of terrifying point where if he does something, then we as an American people have to rise up and quash that somehow, which is not necessarily what I planned to be doing during my pandemic, was rising up against the government.
Corey, if I told you 4 years ago that you'd come on this podcast and you would say, it's time for us to rise up and push this down, you would have called me a liar.
There are so many times in American history where you could have told me like that this is where we would end up, and I would be like, no way, not. Like there's too many orderly rules and decorum and ways that these things have to have. It just would never get to that point unless there was something seriously wrong. Like there was like rampant voter fraud. If there was, that I could see some sort of version of this, but probably not even
Kennedy.
martial law. Like we talked about martial law at the beginning of the shutdown because we said what Newsom was doing, what Garcetti was doing with shutdown orders was effectively all they could get away with legally without declaring martial law. That was the only next step of what they had available to them, where the military gets involved in enforcing this situation,
or for a governor, the National Guard, or the police for a mayor. But yes,
that sort of thing. Some sort of police force.
Yeah,
operating as a keeping things in order. And we said at the time that it should never get to that point. They are welcome to do everything up until that point. But once you start talking about martial law, you have completely lost the basis of which you're operating under, the legal basis under which you're operating. And this is the same thing here with Trump. Like, this is one of the biggest grifts ever in the history of American life.
Yeah.
And the fact that there is so much chaos involved in getting him out is, and you knew this was going to happen. There's so much. The life on the other side does not look nearly as good as it did while he was in office, or particularly before he got into office. He had a much better life before he became president. And, while he's got a lot more attention right now, which is what he wants, he's not. His life is going to become worse the minute he's not president anymore. Oh, yeah. He's going to face legal problems. He's going to not be welcomed in polite society anymore. Like,
other things Obama didn't talk about: giving himself and his entire family a pardon before he leaves to make sure that all bases are covered. But the Marshall, like, I watched CNN this morning. There was a legitimate political discussion about how the military takes commands from the commander in chief, and not Donald Trump, but the commander in chief. He just happens to be commander in chief now. So come January the 20th at noon, that power passes, whether or not he wants it to pass or not. And Joe Biden will become the president, and then the army will start taking orders from him. So even if they did declare martial law, and even if the army was enforcing it, they would take an order from Joe Biden, no matter where he was. And I'm like, what are we fucking talking about, man? Like, you're legitimately saying, like, oh, well, I mean, they have to do it because civilian oversight of the military. And if they didn't do it, that's almost a military coup against the government.
It is a military coup. I mean, like,
but do you want that? That's Turkey. Turkey overthrows their government all the time.
We've had so many attempted coup attempts this last month to last us a lifetime. Like, we had 2/3 of the House the GOP Congress signing on to the amicus briefs. We had 17 states sign on to that stupid lawsuit. New states that don't even exist yet. Signed on to that fucking thing.
You say yet as if they're going to exist at some point. They're just fictional states that somebody made up.
I mean, the problem here is that Trump is running out of time. That's the one saving grace of this whole thing, is that if he wants to start a military coup, then he's got very limited time in which to do it.
And nobody to talk to. Like, Saddam's gone, Gaddafi's gone. Like, who does he look to for advice?
Well, I mean, he's friends with Kim Jong-un now, so I guess he could get a little.
But Kim Jong-un didn't get a military coup. His grandfather did. He's just like, what do you mean? No, you're born.
Yeah, but you could find the stories about olden times, like before.
Like, he reads, please. Does he look like a man who reads?
If they don't talk about it in Inside the NBA, he don't know about it.
But I mean, you call this the greatest grift, and I use that term. This is the greatest grift. It is literally a transfer of wealth from all of America to a single family. And you think, anyone out there thinks that this is martial law thing is about him staying president, it is, but it's not. It's not about being president. It's about
not being convicted.
It's continuing the grift and not going to jail. That's literally all he cares about. And we've talked about before the transfer of money that has happened, then the the violations of the Constitution, where he benefits because he's using the office to push his outside the office businesses.
I mean, one of the first lawsuits he'll see when he leaves office is an emoluments clause case from Maryland. I know they've been sitting on that one. Like,
and and in DC, the hotel, I'm sure that all the hotels are just waiting for him not to be president so they can sue for him using the presidency to push them down and put himself up. But this story this week about, listen, there's grifting, and then there is taking money donated to, we even talked about a few weeks ago, how your, stop the steal money that you're giving, 25% of it goes to GOP. The rest of it is just super PAC money, and he can use it to pay himself for the next 4 years. That's a grift. But the real grift is taking $1 billion, splitting it in half, and saying, we're just going to keep this part of it. Let's figure out a scheme to make sure that this goes into our bank accounts.
Yeah. So real quick, there's a lot to unpack on this part. And I don't feel like we're properly at the point where we can say everything there is to say about this story. But it was being reported this weekend that Kushner created a shell company that spent $617 million of campaign money basically to pay people out, more or less. So think about
people like caterers and
pay people like Trump family members. So a quick recap here, just so you know what information we're working with right now. So there was $1.2 billion roughly in money raised by the Trump campaign.
And those are Americans giving money to a man they wanted to elect president.
Yeah, your crazy uncle gave Trump for America $20. That $20 got split in two. $10 went to the campaign. $10 went to the slush fund, basically.
No, wait, it went to the American Media Monarch Corporation, something like that.
American-made media consultants.
There you go. Hey, that's not a slush fund. That's a company, Corey. It's a shell company. The slush fund is the budget of the shell company.
Right, clearly. By the way, people who are on the board of this thing, Lara Trump, Eric Trump's wife, Mike Pence's nephew, John Pence. So we finally get Pence involved in this one.
Yes,
and, the campaign CFO, Sean Dolman, were all on the company's board. And it seems like a lot of people in the campaign didn't know about what was going on with this secret company that was set up in the side. And more or less, the easiest way to describe it is, we talked about the NRA a couple months back, I'm sure it was at this point. It might have even been years, I don't know. But the NRA basically did the same thing, where they're a charitable organization. They are supposed to not, as part of a charity, you don't want to pay your executives too much money, because they're just like, hey, this money is supposed to go to charitable causes, not to the...
In some states, you can't. Delaware is one of those states. It has to be a certain percentage of the money that's raised.
Right, but I mean, like, even if it's not illegal, it's not looked upon well. If you
can't keep your 501c3 status.
Yeah. And how the NRA would get across this was they would take money and they would give it to their marketing company, Ackerman McQueen, and then Ackerman McQueen would pay all the people who they needed to pay as consultants to make, so Ollie North, as the head of the NRA, could only make, $70,000 a year, just making up a number, right? $70,000 a year is what
probably
his
more
annual
likely
salary.
$400,000 a year, but that's not nearly enough.
Right, but I'm saying as a charitable thing, perhaps you're making less money. You're not. You're just a board member. You're not necessary. But $70,000 a year, and then Ackerman McQueen is also paying him $1.5 million on top of that, because it's money that's taken from the NRA fund, given to Ackerman McQueen, and then they give it to somebody else. So that's how that works.
And also the expenses. Like he wants to go on vacation, and he just calls it an expense, and he expenses Ackerman McQueen, who invoices the NRA.
Well, if you go hunting at some point while you're there, it's part of a business. I mean, another part of the just going back to the stimulus bill,
Trump grift. Oh,
the stimulus for just half a second, because one thing that was in there that I think we should talk about at another point is business dinners are now being tax deductible up to 100% now. Yeah. So for a while they raised that or lowered that number to 50%. So if I am at a restaurant and I'm wooing clients, I can write off 50% of my meal on taxes. Now I can write off 100% with the new stimulus. So just another part of grift that is going on here. Well, but a grift that's very beneficial to the restaurant industry. So I'm sure they'll love it.
You were going to eat anyway, so you can't write that off. But the fact that they came to eat with you makes it, partially tax deductible. Now, every dinner I have is a business dinner. Let me get somebody on the phone real quick.
It's the old 3 martini lunch.
Careful with those rules. This is not tax advice. Do not write off all your lunches. There are rules you have to follow.
We are not attorneys. Well, Rob's an attorney, but not your attorney.
I'm not your attorney, and we're definitely not accountants. And by the way, somebody's getting paid a lot of money to turn that 3-martini lunch into a business meeting somehow with a receipt and some explanation. So.
Listen, I was on the phone the whole time. I don't know how you don't count it.
Seated accidentally across the table from him.
So yeah, basically where we are with this whole thing, and it's still new, and I'm sure we're going to get more coming up here, but just put it in your mind that the Trump Stop the Steal fund has been 75% going directly to Trump, or to his PAC, which will go towards paying him and his family and blah blah blah. And the campaign basically off the top split their money in half and put half of it into actually running a campaign and the other half into the grift, however you may define it. And it seems like everyone has had their hands in the grift here somehow. And
I wonder what might have happened if that money actually got spent, on a campaign.
Well, you have to
would have won.
I mean, maybe it reaches, if you spend, if 25% goes to the grift instead of 50, maybe you actually win this thing.
Yeah, but it's not the point. We didn't.
It's a lot closer than it's a lot closer than I think anyone thought the election was going to be prior to it going in. So who knows? A little money here and there might have actually kept you in office.
The good news is that there are people who look at this. All right, we have a Justice Department and Attorney General. They're on the case. They're going to be working hard through the end of this administration and making sure that justice is done.
So about that, we do have an Attorney General, but it's going to be an acting Attorney General here coming up because Bill Barr, the great legal titan Bill Barr, has decided that he can stand no more and he must leave this office.
The AG who once declared not the mama, very emphatically.
I like how he has an Oval Office meeting a week ago, 10 days ago, whatever it was at this point, where he's just like, this election is pretty straight up and down, no corruption, no anything. This is about as good as it gets. And then he gets called to the Oval Office, and then a week later, it's like, so I'm resigning. I guess it's better than getting fired.
Well, I mean, the good news is on the way out, he's kind of making declarations, though, right? He made the declaration, election's good, no fraud.
Yeah.
Today he made the declaration, like, I'm not calling special counsels. This Hunter Biden thing, not worth a special counsel. And there was another investigation.
The election,
the election itself, not worth a special counsel. So the acting AG, who is going to come in eventually, will have the limitations of what the Supreme Court put on acting Chad, which is that you can exercise some of the powers of the office, but not the most the highest powers, the ones that require long-term kind of like implementation.
Yeah. And I mean, Joe Biden has basically been saying that, this is all just designed to get a rise out of him. And he doesn't think that there's anything there, if you will.
Yeah.
I'm always of the mind that if you look into anyone's taxes hard enough, you're going to find something they did wrong. So I wouldn't be surprised if there was some sort of like sham investigation that was put together that talks about, these 5 counts of tax evasion that we're going to put on Hunter Biden. And then when you investigate it a little bit, you find out like, well, he didn't move the decimal place over once. And
he left line 45-J7 blank. And clearly it indicates in this 2-paragraph long explanation that you must put a 1 in that spot if you're going to try and claim this.
His CPA forgot to put a decimal point in a place and then wrote a amended return, but it didn't get to the government until 15 days, and there's a 14-day limit, and I'm sorry, this is why we do this, so criminals can't take over. Like,
by the way, just going back, $617 million from a campaign put into the pockets of people. But yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
It's just so like, number one, I don't give a fuck about Hunter Biden. Hunter Biden has no interest in being in the government. Joe Biden would not even think about it. After all the shit that went on the last 4 years with all the Trump kids running around, there is not a world where Joe Biden would put Hunter anywhere close to anything important. Like, Hunter's getting a job working at a Walmart greeting people. Like, he's staying as far away from this fucking thing as humanly possible.
Bo Biden has a better chance of getting a job in this administration than Hunter Biden does.
Seriously.
All right? That's what I'm saying.
But it is... it is kind of unbelievable. You remember when, like, every once in a while there would be a story that would just come out that would just needlessly slam some, like, awful sibling of the president or something like that. Like, I remember Roger Clinton. Yeah, Roger Clinton got it for a little bit, and Billy Carter got it for a bit.
Yeah, that's weird that those guys have something in common, Corey. I don't know if you make that connection.
Something in common with Joe Biden as well?
Well, I was going to say something in common with each other. Two Democratic presidents. Who do we not mention off the top?
They all won it.
Ronald Reagan.
They all won Georgia.
Oh, that's true, too. But Ronald Reagan, well, all his siblings were dead because he was ancient, although Joe Biden's actually older than him. I know. Just doesn't seem like it. George H.W. Bush had sons that were doing cocaine and driving while intoxicated.
Yep.
And then later became president of the United States. And I mean, Jeb is the most embarrassing of the Bush brothers, and he was governor while his brother was president. So it's like, it seems to me that this is a rule that only applies to Democrats. Like,
I don't know. I guess the W's, the twins got a little bit of it from the media when they were out drinking and stuff like that. But that was more of a page 6 sort of thing than a front page of the Times kind of thing, you know?
The kids are always different because Chelsea got shit too about, when she was in college. Like, kids, I think, are not fair game. They shouldn't be fair game, but they seem to be. It's like Billy Carter had nothing to do with his brother running for president. And then eventually he tried to turn the fact that they were making him part of the story into a profitable thing by getting a beer company to name a beer after him. Yeah. But Roger Clinton wanted nothing to do with the presidential campaign at all. The media made him part of the campaign, and then Clinton tried to bring him in, and then he just screwed everything up that he touched. So,
yeah.
But Clinton wore sand-colored suits. Did anyone cause a ruckus when that happened? No. But Obama, well, it's not like he stole $617 million from the American people. He wore a sand-colored suit in the summertime.
Yeah. I mean,
really
different times.
Different
times. I just can't wait for the, like, here's the problem. Either we get to the point where the bar, like, the rush of news has gotten to the point where little things don't even matter anymore, or we're going to sensationalize little things to such an extreme that we're never going to be, like, a Hunter Biden 2 counts of tax evasion with really the most fucking rinky-dink of loophole legal arguments will either be special breaking news coverage, or it will be, this happened, but we're not going to talk about it because it's fucking lame. Like, it's not, nobody gives a shit about tax news. Like,
well, Corey, I have a fear because I know that Wolf Blitzer is working on his new news network, breaking news, and it's just him. Every story's breaking news. It's him for 24 hours a day, every 7 minutes, saying breaking news.
My favorite part of watching the Situation Room is that when the theme song hits, the breaking news drop is already built into the, like, it's not. There's no version of the Situation Room where it's just normal everyday news.
It's all breaking
like
news.
it's never gonna be like no breaking news drop. It's just like the Situation Room, and you cut to Wolf Blitzer, and he's just like, it's 73 in Topeka today.
And by the way, Wolf Blitzer could be on TV 24 hours a day because he's a robot. That is a piece of QAnon that I'm starting right here.
Did you see him fighting with Pelosi?
No, oh my God. I can't imagine how boring that must have been as a fight. Just two boring people.
The worst part is Pelosi's like getting all indignant, and like Wolf's only saying, like, you know, like, there's hungry people starving, and she's just like, yeah, I work for those people.
See, you put more emotion in the question than Wolf did. There's hungry people starving. Yeah, I work for those people. Miss Pelosi, I don't think there's any reason for you to raise your voice. We're just having a discussion here. Your mother, yes, is a whore, but that doesn't mean anything. And it's like, whoa, what the fuck, man?
Came unleashed there.
You could say anything, just calm demeanor, because he's a robot.
I would love nothing more. Just Wolf, like, and Nancy Pelosi just talking, and she's jawing back at him. He's just like, you know what? Fuck it. Just like, I've had enough.
Some deep slang comes out, like he's like, you know what, Nancy, I'm really having a problem with the way you're coming at me right now. And it's like, Holy fuck! Did somebody just break Wolf? What happened?
My favorite, I think it was from SNL the other week where it was like, "Hi, I'm Wolf Blitzer. I have an outdoor name but an indoor body."
Well, listen, folks. If you at home were excited about Civil War Part 2, boy, do I have something exciting more for you. It's Cold War 2: Electric Boogaloo.
We have to.
I don't even know what that movie is.
We have to save the ski lodge that is America.
That's right. Oh, 80s. Oh, you were fantastic. But seriously, though, Russia just hacked half our government.
It's so funny. Of all the bad movies, like every so often we have a really horribly bad movie. And it never seems to break through the way Breaking 2 Electric Boogaloo does. And I think it's the name. That's the only thing that, like, it's such a unique. Once you hear it, you never stop saying it. Like, it becomes the thing you drop every so often.
There are brilliant filmmakers out there, but naming the sequel to your movie Aliens, boring. You go with Breaking 2 Electric Boogaloo, that's gonna live forever.
People will remember that. That's.
If I had said, "Hey, are you ready for Cold Wars?" People would be like, what? There's like more than one of them." Like, yeah, because we had
We're
the
fighting
first one.
multiples at the same time. I don't understand.
Well, I mean, to be fair, China, North Korea, Russia.
Yeah, I mean,
we actually kind of are doing that, I guess. But Russia, speaking of Russia, decided to hack, or didn't decide to, had an ongoing hack for the last few weeks that was just discovered. Months.
Yeah.
Years, way back a few years ago, August of 2020, they started this hacking campaign, and essentially they hacked a dozen government agencies and even more outside companies that are government contractors.
Yeah, here's a small list: the U.S. nuclear weapons stockpile, the Treasury, the Pentagon, the Center for Disease Control, the State Department, Justice Department, Department of Homeland Security, and multiple utility and tech companies, especially ones that are outside of the government, but more on the government contractor side.
That seems fine. I don't see anything there that's worrisome whatsoever.
Except for literally all of it. Like,
you know what? Trump's listening to the list be read, and he's like, election commission. God damn it. The only one I need you to hack, Vlad, and you can't hook me up.
You can't hack into 50 states? Jesus Christ. You can get the nuclear stockpile, but you can't hack into Georgia?
So the scariest thing about this, and there's a lot of scary things about this. One, that we were hacked because people just opened an email and said, "Hey, you need to update your system." And they did. They just clicked the button because everybody's a boomer who works in government, apparently. Everybody's my dad.
Like, I clicked the link and something happened.
What link did it have?
Can you remember anything about the link? I don't know. It just had a couple swastikas in it.
It was blue.
Well, why'd you click the link?
It was blue, but after I clicked it, it turned pink. Is that important at all? Like, no, Dad, that's not important.
The subject line of the email was "Check this out." Was I not supposed to check this out?
No, see, that my dad would have deleted that because my family sends entire sentences as subjects. It's the first sentence of the email that they're sending is the subject.
Hey, like it's a subject like, "Hey, Denzel's so excited to see you at the upcoming family reunion."
Don't forget, it's the first line of the email. Don't forget, it's going to be July 11th, and we're going to meet. Yeah, that's how my family sends emails. But more disturbing than that.
At least you don't get my dad's treatment is no subject. Just every email is no subject. If you want to know what it's about, read the email.
I'm not going to let you delete this right in your inbox.
I don't have time to just summarize it for you up at the top.
But the more disturbing part isn't just that how easily they hacked it. It was that it's a long-term plan. It was implemented very easily. And I'm just thinking about your dad. I just heard your dad's voice. I'm not summarizing that for you. The most disturbing part is that we discovered the hack. We fixed it. I guess deny access to them. And now we are still trying to figure out what they were doing, where they got, and what was the purpose. And that's the kind of thing that just makes you go like, okay,
I guess I'll sit here patiently and wait to find out how bad it was.
Yeah, it's like, what are the odds that my social security number ended up on the dark net? Let me hear those again. Okay, it's 100%. 100% my social security number is on the dark net. I gotcha. Okay.
Well, I mean, I knew that as soon as I heard Justice Department.
I mean, there's a lot of places on that list that have a file on me for my Freedom of Information Act requests. Homeland Security, FBI is injustice, right? FBI, Homeland Security. There's a lot of them.
So, there was a movie that just recently came out from Alex Gibney, 2-part thing, Agents of Chaos. Did you see that one?
I haven't watched it. I believe that it's in my Just Watch queue, justwatch.com, a place that you can build a queue from all of your streaming services. This is not an ad. I'm just excited about
Just get an affiliate link and we'll make it an ad.
It's free, so I don't know that we can get an affiliate link.
Justwatch.com/O The Anthem. Boom.
People start plugging that in. Like, we're getting a lot of 401s here. I don't know what this address is that people are getting out.
We get an email from them just going like, a lot of people are going to your link, but there's
you don't have a link.
You don't have a link?
We don't have an affiliate network.
No, but there was a 2-part documentary from Alex Gibney, Agents of Chaos. I recommend everyone go see it if they want to. It's on HBO.
You mean HBO Max?
Well, I mean, if you still got access to old HBO, I'm sure you can still see it. Like, it's not a Max exclusive or nothing.
Okay, all right, okay.
But the first part, they talk about the Russian hacking campaign in the election and like what that involved, and what you'll see.
The 2016
election. What you'll see is that for the first part of this whole the whole hacking network that they built, it was really kind of ragtag, and they didn't know what they were doing, and it was just like trying to throw shit at the wall and seeing what sticks, right?
On the news, they called it the D Squad.
Yeah, they were just
D Squad working.
doing whatever they felt like, just making memes, causing chaos, doing whatever they feel.
Don't you want that job? Just sit around all day making Twitter accounts to repost things,
just to call Nancy Pelosi a bitch and just. Oh well, this egg called me a bitch. I should really take that. So basically they didn't do well right out the gate with the whole hacking and the whole influencing campaigns or anything like that. But then they reassessed. They took all the things that didn't work from the first iteration of it, and they reapplied it to a second iteration, and that's the one that really worked well. They worked out all the kinks in the early beta, and by the time they were ready for their 2.0 launch, they had it. They had it all right there. And the reason why they had it all right there is because in Russia, it benefits you to work for the government or to be in line with the government somehow. You don't necessarily need to be an oligarch to some oil industry or something like that. You can just be a government contractor, essentially, working for, a troll farm in Moscow. And your life is significantly better than it would be if you were just trying to work at some tech company in Russia anywhere else. So that is not the way it is in America. If you are any good at coding or, anything regarding internet or tech or networking or security or any of that, you will make so much more money in the private sector than you will ever sniff as a government employee.
Yeah.
And to want to be there really means that you have to want to serve your country in some sort of way. Like, this is the thing I can do to serve my country, but there's no way you're like a normal everyday person is taking a $70,000 government job as opposed to a $700,000 job at Google. Like, this is not how it works.
Listen, Ed Snowden was a brilliant computer scientist, and he took that job, and clearly he wasn't a public servant. He didn't want to make the people better. He was a spy, clearly, from the beginning, before any evidence ever showed that. But he's in Russia now, so now we know he's a spy.
Do we?
Oh, no, he's absolutely not a spy. He is the patriot. He's the guy who took the small paycheck, could have made way more.
I was going to say, did I miss something? Because I saw Snowden pardoned on Twitter not too long ago, and I was just like, did I miss is this still good? Sometimes
they're pushing out.
Sometimes you got to be careful about who you publicly defend because you miss something. there's a couple of weeks there in the middle where I was just like, yeah, why wouldn't I want to work for Harvey Weinstein? He makes great movies. Wait a minute, something's in the news? Why didn't anyone tell me?
So again, I'm not on social media, but I know I did see a story about the push for the pardon Snowden thing is basically like reaching out to Trump and saying he did nothing to harm you. He actually harmed the Democrat before you. So wouldn't it be a good like in your face for you to pardon him while you're giving out all these 100 pardons?
My favorite part of pardoning Snowden is the fact that everyone who I hate hates the idea of it happening. So
yes,
that's basically a win for me.
And the fact that they're grifting the grifter, they're just basically like, you know what? You look amazing. Your hair's fantastic. Your dick is huge. And by the way, Snowden pardon? Or like, what do you think?
Anywho. So yes, so Russia has massively hacked us. They found a backdoor. What is SolarWinds? Is that it? I keep messing that up. I don't want to mess that up.
And I want to say it's correct. I was certain about it, but now that you've said, I'm not sure if that's correct the last 4 times. I am not 100% certain if that was it. I do think SolarWinds is the name of the company, though.
I do believe it is. It's one of the first things that pop up. Yep.
There you go.
SolarWinds. So they're a company that is sort of hired a lot by the government. And this is part of the way that they got access was a backdoor through that. And that's not good for them. They're gonna have some trouble recovering from that.
And I went on a diatribe with Corey in the pre-show meeting about how Russians are just basically always ahead of us. They actually won the Cold War. As much as you've been taught they lost the Cold War, they won it, except for Chernobyl happened and it ruined their relationship with all their satellite states. But skipping forward from all that, I wanted to make a comparison because I know that people see this and they're worried that Russia has the upper hand and they are most certainly going to defeat us in this new Cold War. And while they did carry out a multi-year, multi-billion-dollar effort to hack our people's minds so that they would go vote a certain way, and now this is leading to more direct hacks of the government. While this was going on, there was also a $1 billion 4-month investigation into the partisan leader in Russia. And that all worked out. They nearly killed him with poison. And we know about this entire scheme because that guy, the one who almost died, basically rerouted himself through an office phone, called one of the agents that he knew was following him, and then got him to admit not on the record, but on recording the entire scheme. So yes, they're brilliant. They can hack, but also on an individual basis, maybe not the smartest guys and maybe not so much to fear.
Well, and also here's the other thing that you got to think of. The Russian economy is basically entirely propped up on oil, which is going to run out very soon. There's only so much oil under Russia, and it will not last forever. And their economy outside of oil is crumbling. So there's nothing that really holds them together other than this one natural resource, which we all basically in the world agree is not going to last forever. Yep. So,
well, luckily,
Russia is taking their opportunities right now while they're still a quote unquote superpower to be able to take a couple swings at people who are ahead of them, and really. Joe Biden, besides just the hacking and besides the election interference and everything else that has gone in from Russia, there needs to be a punishment back to the Stone Age for them. Basically, there needs to be a end of World War I Germany type punishment on the way for Russia.
Keep in mind, because we started doing that, and then all of that was rolled back by the Trump administration, organized by Michael Flynn.
Right
before the between the election and the inauguration. So,
and what did Michael Flynn have involved in this? Was any clearly Russia was not paying Michael Flynn to do things. That just seems comical.
I mean, they may have paid for his vacation. They didn't give him cash, no, but things were paid for. You don't ask questions about how it gets paid for. You mention to someone you'd like to take a trip. All of a sudden, flights appear at your desk, and there's a hotel room waiting for you for 7 weeks in the Dominican Republic.
All of a sudden, your email has a no subject with a link to click, and next thing you know, you're on your way to St. Petersburg.
But good news is, Russian economy backed by oil, which is a finite resource and is running out. So we know their power is waning. juxtaposed to the American economy, which is built on the reputation of America, which
is waning.
is waning, probably waned, past tense. So yeah, we have oil too, though. And
some of it,
and a lot of nuclear weapons, and we know how to use them. We've shown you before. Don't mess with us.
We've done it twice. Don't make us do it a third time.
Well, to be fair, we've used them twice, but also, like MacArthur wanted to bomb North Korea and China, just carpet bomb them with nuclear weapons. And trust me, there's somebody in our military that has that plan still. So don't fuck with us.
They're just waiting for Trump to have a bad day.
There is somebody there.
You know what?
Make
like some guy with the football going like, make it feel real good.
Listen, I got the codes. Sometimes I just pop it open. I hit the big button, and it just makes me feel good inside.
I just rub the button. A little bit. Just diddle. Like a titty. Just like a titty. Just get it.
You got the codes. You got the codes.
You got the codes. I got the finger. Let's do this.
you know what makes you feel like you got the biggest dick in the world?
You got a key. I got a key. We'll turn them at the same time.
Yeah, but
it'll be a thing we do together.
And clearly, if Michael Flynn and what's her name, the lawyer, the Georgia lawyer, what's her name? Yes. If they are being invited to the White House for a meeting, then clearly there are no adults in the room in the White House. So it's not too much to say that maybe someone is suggesting we carpet bomb Beijing with nuclear weapons. There's probably somebody. So did you just get the hey, check your messages?
Yeah.
It's dinner time, bitch. Get off the podcast. Let's go.
Well, you know what else the time it is?
What time is that?
Time for you to go to otheanthem.com, Corey to otheanthem.com, O The Anthem on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and the listener line, 443-219-7595. Brooks is excited. 443-219-7595.
There you go.
You can find more of me at my website, CoreyBakerFilmmaker.com, Facebook.com/CoreyBakerFilm, and at Legends65 on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Working on some things. So stay tuned, because the new year is coming, and I feel like it's a fresh start for all of us.
Okay, hang on. I gotta.
You weren't prepared for such a short.
No, I hadn't gone to my solo the entire show, and one of my lights was in the shot, and I refused to be.
It's been in the shot the whole time. It's been sitting like right over my left shoulder there.
Right here?
Yeah.
Oh fuck! I did not even notice.
That's all right.
Yeah, what are you gonna do? Oh, well, okay. Anyway, so you can find more of me at Robert and Cheek on all your social networks, but I'm not updating. I still have another blessed, 7, 9, 11 days of no posting. And I may just drop social media forever, or at least not be as frequent as I usually am, because I found it to be very freeing. But you can find me if you want to interact with me on Call of Duty, Black Ops. My Activision is Robert and Cheek. Send me a message. Let's connect. We can play together. That's fine. You can also find more information at robertandcheek.com about my books, the screenplays, everything that I'm working on outside of that. So make sure you check that out. And I ended all of my other projects. So I literally have nothing going on except for playing Call of Duty and doing this podcast once a week. And also working occasionally. But again, I work from home. So the line's very blurry.
All right. Well, I think we've done good here today.
We've done something. I don't know if it's good. But as always, you're listening to the O The Anthem podcast, part of the O The Anthem digital network. For Corey, this is Rob. Have a great week, everybody.
If we weren't on a list before,
oh,
God knows.
Buddy, we've been on those lists for a long time. I don't know who you were trying to impress.
We ain't getting that Hunter Biden 4 meaningless counts either.
Now I'm getting the big count. I want the big one. I want the treason. Yeah.
The McRib.